Hard hat's all about showing up to play hard, doing what it takes to win.
If you want to cement legacy, win another.
He's your third center.
You don't want to pump him up too much, but it's hard not to.
This is maybe the most I've ever agreed with you.
Hey, Buddy Manning here. Welcome to a Tuesday edition of the Garden Report on a game day. We don't usually do these on a game day, but we're still talking about the fallout of the most surprising trade in NBA history. Maybe what will go down as many think, Tim, the worst trade in NBA history. And that's where we'll start this off. Are you where everybody else is right now? It feels like 99% of the world is saying, what the hell? This is the dumbest idea ever. And how can you give up Luka Doncic?
I am, I guess, in my own weird version of that. Yeah. Obviously, a lot of my past 72 hours has been trying to understand this, reporting, figuring out what all is going on behind the scenes. And as I've reported at alldls.com, this is something I've come to learn. Some people, some team and league sources close to the Mavericks had started to potentially see this coming. I did not know that. This definitely took me by surprise. Even knowing that, and there was to some degree, there was tension or frustrations, and certainly all that stuff about Luka Doncic specifically was, it was known. It was not just known like behind the scenes, like a lot of it had been talked about and reported on. But yes, I am still surprised, here 2.5 days later since the news broke. And it's still surprised even on a personal level of somebody who has covered Luka Doncic since he was in the league. This is by no means the most important aspect of the trade, but I think everybody personally comes into news like this in their own ways. And a year after, I was there on draft night when the Mavericks Luka, followed him around the hallways all night. Remember when he seemed like this confident, bold kid, except for when he went into the social media room and they were having him do like TikTok dances, or maybe it was still Vine. I guess it wasn't Vine back then, but like they were asking him to do all these little emotes, the NBA in the social media room. That was the only time that, he seemed a little bit out of his element. I went to Slovenia the next year to try to figure out what it was that Slovenia loved so much about this ambassador of theirs that they had sent into the world and sent out there to, represent a country that they have so much pride for. And yeah, now that is surprisingly, shockingly, no longer something that I cover. And so, yeah, that has been a very jarring thing to understand and process over the past 72 hours, even as, the real ramifications are on the court and off the court, what led to it.
Yeah, and I want to get to the stuff on the ground in Dallas because I know you were out there by the arena the day it happened. So the reason this happened, there's a lot of reporting out there now. I'm sure you've heard a lot of stuff now too. Whether it's the money and the Supermax here, and Luka did talk earlier today and said he gave no indication that he wasn't going to sign. Whether it was the shape, the weight, the taking care of his body, the injuries, whatever else here, or just their affinity for Anthony Davis, which, that's the one part I'll actually give them a little something. Like I feel like we're talking about Anthony Davis like he's, Dwayne Dedman or something here. Like they're getting a really, really, really all-time good player back here. So I don't have a problem with the return, but obviously what everyone's thinking about here is why would you trade Luka, who is seemingly willing to stay for maybe the rest of his career? And as much as we've heard bits and pieces of that and Nico Harrison's addressed that, I don't feel like we really know why there was such urgency to move him. And I think that's why everyone's so perplexed about this. It just came together so quickly and seems so hastily done that no one can even fathom this. I mean, my favorite tweet, Tim, of this whole, and there were a lot of them, was, how do you think Nico felt when everyone in the NBA world thought Shams was hacked not that you did this. Like, why did they move Luka?
Yeah, and I think that's the right framing. There's two different aspects of maybe even three different aspects of this trade. The first aspect is reaching the point that you are looking and wanting to trade Luka. The next part is the actual conducting of the negotiations, the process you chose to trade him. There obviously is a third element of who the Mavericks are now, and what this team is actually going to look like under its new construction. I think it's very difficult, and I've obviously been talking a lot about this. It's very difficult to talk about all three parts at once. It is easier to kind of break it into one. So I'm glad we're doing that. Let's talk about why Dallas got to the point they chose to trade Luka, and specifically Nico Harrison. I think you're right. I don't think we know yet. I do not feel like everything that has been put out there, and a lot has been put out there. Obviously, there's a lot said about him being, the frustrations the organization had with him, his sometimes inability to stay in the right physical shape, the times that he would miss games, miss multiple games, not, often it was listed as an injury, but it was much more of an excuse to get him back in shape. And I'll say this is all stuff that everybody in Dallas, all reporters around Dallas has been hearing this entire time. And a lot of it has been absolutely reported on. This is, and what I've heard since the trade happened is nothing different than what I've been hearing this whole time, reported on or otherwise. I have not heard some new revelation that there was this thing that happened or that thing that happened, that, all those things that, it's actually way worse and it's way different. I have not heard new iterations of that. So really what it comes down to is Nico Harrison, and Nico Harrison has owned this decision. He said it was him. He said it was him, all of his negotiation, that the only person he was in negotiation with was, Pelinka, and Pelinka was in contact with, the Lakers ownership, and, Nico Harrison was in contact with Mavericks ownership, but this really was done. This decision was made by Nico Harrison. Again, because he has owned that, I think it's important to say this is not the Mavericks decision. This is Nico Harrison's decision. Even Jason Kidd did not know until the very, very final hour. Again, these are Nico's own words. So all I can, what I'll say is, like, not everybody would have made this decision. I am all but certain Mark Cuban. I am certain Mark Cuban.
I was going to ask you that. Yeah.
Yeah. I am certain in the same situation that Mark Cuban would not have signed off on this deal, that he would never have even considered something like this, even if, perhaps he had some understanding for the rationale that got it there. So it really is, it's not a decision I don't think most general managers would make. And so what's important to think about, what's important to remember in this situation is that Nike, that Nico is from Nike, that he is not a lifelong GM, that, as I've reported today, there's a lot of questions about how long he's interested in staying in this general manager role. That it's so clear that his focus right now is on short term in the next few years, winning a championship.
And he mentioned that, right? Like 3-4 years.
Yeah. Right. And for several months now, I have had sources, and I reported this today in alldls.com. I keep getting asked by people around the team, people, close to his understanding, or are close to understanding what he's thinking, is that this probably, this isn't Nico's desire to be here 10, 15 years. That this is something that he wants to do, and he wants to do it his way. And he wants to go out and try to win a championship. But he genuinely believes, for reasons that I still think we're not quite clear on, that this move gets them closer to that, makes them more of a contender over the next few years, which is his specific focus to try to win a championship now.
Yeah, and I don't totally disagree with that. The last thing I got on Luka specifically is how ownership could sign off on that, especially such a unilateral decision and such a secretive approach to this. And I am a little torn about the way he went about it, because I don't think you can argue against the fact that if you're going to trade a guy like this, you probably should canvass the league and get the best return possible and just see what's out there. I do understand that if you really wanted Davis and you didn't want it out there, that you would take this approach. But again, to me, the fact that, Cuban or the average owner probably wouldn't do this, that there probably were plenty in the organization who didn't want to see Doncic go, and that the GM, who, like you said, might not be there in 3-4 years, was able to just go out and trade one of the, most valuable players in NBA history to one team without, I can't believe that was allowed to happen. Why do you think ownership signed off on this?
I mean, it's a new group, and it's the Adelson family. It's Patrick Dumont is the owner of the team, the representative governor of the team. I don't, and I've been told this as well by sources close to the team, in and around the team, that Nico Harrison did not, and I don't think the ownership either really understood the reaction would be to this level. Obviously, they understood to some extent that there was going to be a lot of backlash. I'm not denying that they expected that.
And that's sometimes why you do let the word out there a little bit, see what the reaction will be, a little trial balloon.
But once you do that, I don't think there's any way to recover it.
Right.
And honestly, one of the aspects of the deal I understand most is the fact that Nico Harrison wants to win now, and he went and found one guy who could still make, Dallas is still a contender. We'll see how much of one. I think this roster is kind of uneven. And I don't know if their ceiling is as high, but I at least understand the idea of it's going to be so difficult. Like, all this stuff is going to make it very difficult to trade him. The agent negotiations, the fan backlash. At least go get the guy you want, and that's the that's the approach he took with it. I honestly, like I said, I kind of actually really do understand that part of it. It's the getting to the point that you want to go trade Doncic that is still so baffling to me.
Absolutely. And Davis is out tonight, fittingly enough, though. His debut could happen in Boston on Thursday. So let's take a quick 1-second break here to hear from Game Time, who's got all your tickets for Thursday's Mavericks Celtics game.
This episode is also powered by Game Time, the best place to get tickets to the games, events, and concerts you want to see. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Game Time is filled with terrific features like all-in pricing, so you know exactly how much you're paying. No surprise fees at checkout. You also get panoramic views from your seats in the app, so you know exactly what you'll be looking at before you buy. Plus a lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Once again, download that Game Time app, create an account, use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. What time is it? It's game time.
Yeah, pretty wild. We have a Celtics Mavs game on Thursday. There's going to be a Lakers Mavs game in Dallas in April. And I think the Lakers and Mavs are going to play each other in LA in pretty short order here.
The end of the month.
Yeah.
The 26th or 27th.
Those are going to be some big time tickets. So go over there, Game Time, use that code CLNS, get $20 off your first purchase. Again, terms apply. So I saw you out there on the ground, Tim. It's pretty amazing, like just in terms of the reaction of the trade among the fan base in Dallas and anyone who's just a Luka fan. You had the protests going on out there, people like writing stuff on the sidewalk outside of the arena. You had all the murals up. It was amazing, the scene that built up there pretty quickly. And you do think like this happening on a dime, all that Mavs history that's erased there. You had the Dirk handoff to Luka and Dirk's final year and them going to the finals last season and all of these classic games and performances and stuff, and it's just like boom, all of it's gone. Like you thought this guy was going to play in Dallas his whole career, and just overnight, a lot of people probably woke up to this because it happened after midnight. What was it like just being out there and being around the fans and everything that was transpiring on the ground that night?
Yeah, you said it, and I think that's the most important thing. It's that the Dallas Mavericks are as a franchise. It's how they relate to their fans and how their fans relate to them. So, of course, as we said, the ownership and the GM are different now. But Dallas as a franchise is one that had Dirk, play 21 years here. 21 years for one team, and won a championship here. The statue outside of the American Airlines Center says loyalty never fades away. And when Luka was drafted, he overlapped 1 year with Dirk, and it quickly became apparent that this appeared to be the start of a new era. And the team began to describe Luka in that way. And Luka, turned around and did the same things. He talked about loyalty. He talked about wanting to be the next Dirk Nowitzki. He talked about and has since talked about, even in his Laker presser today and all this, that this was someone who that he emulated Dirk, and he wanted to be the next Dirk Nowitzki. That loyalty was a very important word to him. So all of that context, I think there are franchises like this would have been shocking and to any franchise that this happened to. But it's possible that there are some franchises that, view their identity more about winning titles, that this maybe would have gone over differently. Not perfectly, not well, but differently, because the identity is so caught up in something that is a little bit different. Dallas is not that type of franchise. And that's what Dallas said about Luka, up until, not up until, like, I mean, you asked anybody publicly on the record, in the past 12 months, what Luka meant to Dallas. And they would say, this is the face of the franchise. And this is the guy who, came in and took Dirk's mantle. And he is the heir to Dirk. And that's, it's just such a different, that I think that's specifically what makes this so difficult for Mavs fans, and what has caused such a visceral reaction of anger and frustration, and to the point that many people are canceling their Mavs TV subscriptions and canceling season tickets.
I just saw the season ticket thing. What was that all about?
Yeah, I honestly, that was the first I was seeing it too. I've maybe somewhere in my text messages somebody was telling me about it, but a lot of texts. Never got this many texts in my life, but apparently they're refunding season tickets for those who are canceling them now. So
wow,
at the cost of $2,000. So that's just a completely wild thing that I do not think this is something that winning a championship would absolve every fan's reaction.
Yeah,
I really don't.
There's a similar trade in Boston, 2020, Mookie Betts, and probably a worse version of this. You're not getting Anthony Davis back, but it derailed the franchise in many ways, lost a lot of fans. It completely lowered the team's standing in the city, and that's something that could happen here. Now, as far as the return goes, a lot of people got caught up on that, and I'm not as caught up on that. I think people wanted to see them go out and get like 7 picks, like the Suns and Nets did, or some of these other trades we've seen over the years, Rudy Gobert. I think people wanted to see them go and get a younger star, or at least multiple valuable players here. And Max Christie's fine. He'll be a good player, but I think people are looking at them just getting 3 things back and saying, oh, why didn't they get like 50 things back? And to me, I think people are overlooking Davis a little bit here. Now, I'll say this. You're asking a lot. Like you said, maybe a championship doesn't even absolve this. I think they could be in that championship conversation if everything goes right here. Like Davis plays healthy to his level, Kyrie healthy to his level, Clay even is a big question mark you have to consider here. So there's a lot of ifs, which is another reason, like, why do you go out and do this when there's so many ifs to winning in the short term, even after this move? But I think the return was, if you decided you were done with Luka and you wanted to move on with him, I think this is probably one of the better returns you would have gotten. I might be wrong about that, but I like Davis. Maybe that's just me. There's obviously a lot of people who aren't as high on him.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm with you. Again, the compartmentalization. We're now stepping past the how it got to the point that you were going to trade him. I definitely more agree with you than not. People who wanted, all of the first round picks. Obviously, you weren't going to do that and get a player who could be called a top 10 player in the NBA. Whether Dallas should have got more, I don't know. I mean, yes, on the face, I think it's crazy they weren't able to get, both first round picks and, maybe a pick swap or two or something like that. On its face, yes. But I agree. From Nico Harrison's perspective, where he wants to win a title in the next few years, absolutely. This, going and getting another player like this, you weren't going to have it all, because how many borderline top 10 players were even available? I mean, as I understand it, Dallas did reach out to Milwaukee and, checked and asked if Giannis was, I don't know how much, and this has previously been reported, but, I don't know how far those conversations went, if Milwaukee even realized how serious Dallas was. I don't have any more exact details.
Now that trade might have received a different reaction.
It might have. It really might have. I don't know how. And again, it's the reason that these trades never happen, even though Giannis is of more equal value to Luka. The reason this doesn't happen is because of the fan reactions. And I still think there would be a lot of hurt and pain in Dallas, because it's like you gave away Luka, but for a very good player, but at what cost? But yes, different fan reactions if that's the case, and in all likelihood. But yeah, if this is what you're going to do, like virtually no other top 10 player, and again, is Anthony Davis that? You can absolutely argue it. I don't think it's a set in stone thing that he's a top 10 player, but he's amazing. He is a absolutely wonderful, excellent basketball player, obviously. A very, 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 he is a superstar. And, there wasn't really any other superstar you're going to go get. And so in that context, and in the context that you're trying to win now, so, what, does a 2031 pick say mean to you, except for the fact that, it might be further help to help build your team and make sure it's a title contender right now. Yeah, you go get the player and the rest of the stuff, the 1 million first round picks that, it was once seemed that you would need to trade for Luka. That stuff is just not as much of a conversation point to me. So I agree with you in that sense.
I would have called Spurs about Wembanyama too. They probably say no, I would think. But that's
absolutely.
No.
Yeah. There's no chance. But
last question I got for you.
Yeah.
What is it going to look like here? Kyrie, Clay, they went and got Caleb Martin today. You got Washington, you got Gafford, Davis. It's, it could be a potentially massive, imposing front line. I think it's a front line that scares Oklahoma. I think they're probably my second favorite behind Oklahoma to come out of the West now. But again, there's so many ifs with the health and the performances and everything else. And obviously it's a new look team, a whole new dynamic now. What is this going to look like for the rest of the year here and, into next year, just based on how the roster is set up now?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think they're the second favorite before they made the trade, but I think I agree that they remain the second favorite in the Western Conference to come out of this. The defense, it's really all about the defense, and the defense needs to be, like top 2, top 3 in the league. The roster is still a little bit unbalanced. Caleb Martin helps a little bit. Because now you have a wing defender. I think Caleb Martin becomes the best wing defender on the team. Max Christie is the best point of attack defender on the team. It's, they only have one shot creator, and that's Kyrie. And Kyrie instantly becomes the player who is going to be just absolutely far and away the most targeted guy on defense. At least in the past, he shared those responsibilities with Luka. And Dallas was still a top 10 defense last season after making trades. Obviously went to the finals, and
I do worry how much they're putting on him now.
And I would be surprised if Dallas doesn't have another trade coming. I would be surprised if this roster as it stands is the roster they're taking into the rest of the season. but yeah, I mean, defense wasn't technically the problem in the finals against Boston. Now, I think Boston fans would say that the Celtics offense did not nearly live up to how good it is, and it wasn't Dallas who was forcing that. And I think that's a totally fair assessment. But ultimately, it was the offense. Both teams' offenses were 105, 107, points per 100 possessions. Dallas simply could not score, did not have enough players who could create kind of on their own. And I don't think you've taken a step forward there. You have certainly more players who are capable of doing stuff on their own. Najee Marshall is capable in that way. Anthony Davis, I'm not trying to discount him. He is a finisher. He's a great offensive player. But there is so much pressure on Kyrie Irving being such a focal point for breaking down defenses, getting them into scramble situations, that I just can't look at this roster and think it's complete yet, or think that the Mavericks think it's complete yet. Because as it stands right now, I don't, as much as it's probably the second most talented roster in the Western Conference, I don't know if it fits together well enough right now for it to really hit its potential.
He's Tim Cato. Good catching up with you, man. I couldn't make it to Dallas. I got sick during that West Coast trip and had to skip that one. It wasn't an amazing game anyway, but
unfortunately I will not be there on Thursday, but hopefully we catch up soon.
How's the new job, man? Obviously you've changed jobs since we last talked.
Man, DLLS has never been busier. I feel like I've been on camera. I feel more like you. I've been on camera a lot over the past 72 hours, but man, with a story like this, with the most shocking trade in NBA history, and I really don't think that's hyperbole. What a time to be covering it here in the front lines.
What were you doing when it happened? Were you asleep? Were you working?
I was at a jazz bar, listening to jazz. Had a laptop open and was finishing up some trade intel that I'd been hearing about what Dallas was.
All right, at least you had a laptop
thinking.
open and ready to go. Yeah.
Had to head home real quick after that, but yeah, I finally got some sleep last night, so things are looking up.
All right, appreciate you taking some time with us here, man. We'll let you get out of here, and hopefully we'll catch up with you soon and see how this season develops, man. Thank you.
Great to chat.
All right. Thanks again to Tim Cato. You can follow him over on Twitter at Tim_Cato. All City DLLS. That's where his work is found now. So you again go check that out over there. Ton of fallout still. Appreciate you all in the comments. I'm here in Cleveland for the big game tonight. 7:30 tip off. I think it'll start right on time. Then we'll have post game coverage here. Noah Delzell is in town as well. And before we get out of here, I want to give a shout out to Prize Picks. It's the big game coming up on Sunday. It's Tuesday, so still time here to go get that Pat Mahomes free square that they're giving away over there. So just combine Pat Mahomes, 0.5 yards. All you got to do is get more than that from him, which I think is going to happen. And someone else, like I said, I'm as high as it is. I'm gonna go with the Saquon Barkley, 112 last I checked rushing yards. So that's the deal over on Prize Picks. 2 or more players pick more or less on their stat projections, and you have yourself your daily fantasy team. It's the best place to go get daily fantasy. Of course, all your season-long fantasy teams are done at this point. So go over to Prize Picks and make one for the big game. Again, you're getting a Pat Mahomes free square right now. And as always, over on Prize Picks, use the code CLNS. Play $5, get 50 instantly. So whether it's the Celtics game tonight or whatever other games are going on this week, hockey, basketball, baseball will be back soon as well. But again, play $5 and get $50 instantly. Free Pat Mahomes square for this Sunday as well. And use the code CLNS to let them know we sent you. That's Prize Picks. Run your game. All right. That is all I got for this afternoon. Thank you to Tim. We will be back tonight at Celtics Cavs. Celtics underdogs for only the 3rd time this year. And they will play the Mavericks on Thursday. I'm still putting the pieces together on this trade here. Like I said, it's indefensible to trade Luka. I don't mind the return if you're adamant that you wanted to trade Luka. That's where I'm at. I might be wrong. they're probably going to be wrong. And that is pretty startling to hear from Tim there, even though Nico acknowledged it himself that they're not taking the long term into account there. They want to win now, and maybe he won't even be there long term. So that makes a lot of sense why you would do something like that if you believe Davis is the guy who's going to get you over the top. Now, would a championship absolve them here? Tim said no. I think it would. I think if the Mavs win the championship this year, he ends up looking a lot better. Now, is that going to happen? I would bet against it. But I could see them coming out of the West. Celtics-Mavs rematch with a whole different dynamic. That would be interesting because Luka's struggles were a big part of that series, as well as Kyrie's, though. So, man, it's an interesting one to talk about, and appreciate you all here joining me to talk about it here today, and we'll have plenty of other time to talk about it. Celtics-Cavs tonight, 7:30. We'll have post-game coverage and a ton of coverage on the ground here for CLNS Media. And again, support our sponsors. Big reason we're able to travel and give you coverage on the ground like this. Prize Picks code CLNS and Game Time code CLNS. You want to go see the game on Thursday, Mavs Celtics. That's the place to go find your tickets. That's it for now. Some stuff happened around the league today as well. I mentioned Caleb Martin goes to Dallas. So Philly, are they selling? Are they selectively selling? I think to me, it makes it a lot more plausible that Gershon Yabusele could move. And that's obviously something I want to see the Celtics do ahead of Thursday's deadline. Just 2 days from today, 48 hours, 3 o'clock Eastern, we'll have a trade deadline special before that Mavs game. So Celtics are playing that night as well, which isn't typical. So we're going to be pretty busy that day. And I think the Celtics should probably do something, even if it's small, even if it ends up being a buyout edition after. I know Torrey Craig just got bought out as well. He's only played 9 games this year, but that's a name I wouldn't mind. So we'll keep an eye on everything over here. And again, if something happens, we'll go live wherever we are. I'll be back in Boston tomorrow. So hopefully nothing happens tomorrow morning. But ready to go live today, tomorrow afternoon, whenever it is. And that's it for us today. Again, thanks to Tim, and we'll talk to you later tonight here from Cleveland.
No one's sneaking a vegan brownie by me, I'll tell you that.
Okay, you know what, John? We're going to do it.
You have to feel that way too, Bobby.
I have to feel that way? Let's
Yeah.
fly Al over and make Luke your first center.
Bobby, we gave you Luke hour early. We are not going to end this on a damn conversation about Luke